I always kind of feel good about the first 100. I think I'd have fit right in with that bunch. They just seemed like the kind of a bunch of drunks I would have hung out with. I mean, here were a bunch of guys that were just rushing around pell-mell, had no clue what they were doing. They'd just basically bunch up and talk and run out and try to rescue people. Now, I'd have fit right into that. Man, I tell you what, I'd have been in hog heaven. That's the kind of crowd I drank with. And so I would have been one of those guys real easy. Identify with them. They were a peculiar kind of a bunch. And what happened in those early days, it was that what we call the chain reaction of love and service was born in that bunch. Their only real action was what we call that chain reaction of one alcoholic reaching another. And each one of those people came in as a direct result of the actions of a sober alcoholic. And so that sort of set a principle, set a standard in the fellowship. I remember those guys. I remember those people, some of whom I met. Just name a few. Rockefeller, the wonderful fellow who helped write our seventh tradition. He didn't know it. But the guy who made us understand that money would ruin this thing, we wouldn't have figured that out, but he figured it out for us. Jack Alexander, who wrote that profound article in 41, and absolutely blew open the gates of AA so that an avalanche of people came in. Wonderful folk. Clint Duffy, the first penologist who opened a prison and said, come in, we've got drunks in here. That's 64 years ago that happened, just about 64 years. So people who were eminent, Dr. Silkworth, the guy who sort of steadied Bill. When Bill had that, what he called that white flash experience, I had experiences like that, but it usually came from drinking too much wine. That made me have those kinds. And I thought I was nuts. Bill thought he was nuts. Silkworth was the steadying force. He's the guy who walked up to him and said, I don't know what it is, buddy, but you better hang on to it because it sure beats what you had. Thank God for the insight and wisdom of people like that who were eminent. Ed Dowling, the guy who was, Bill called him his spiritual advisor. I think he helped shape the steps that showed up at Bill's place on a rainy Friday night, knocked on the door. Sam Shoemaker. I had the pleasure of meeting Sam Shoemaker. What a powerful force that guy was in this program. What was really important to me about those early days, and it was still existent when I started to come in, that we were basically a pretty small and intimate gathering. There weren't many of us around this world. Yeah, and those numbers we were talking about, I think we were really optimistic in some of that counting about the people who wrote the book. It was just a small gaggle of folk who put that group together, almost killed each other in the process of doing it. We were a small bunch. A small bunch who in the beginning had that kind of vision, had that kind of hope, and then hit that book and we started to open the doors. And the thing that really sticks in my mind that was so important, the story of the first 40 or 50 or whoever it was, that's important. But I can understand that bunch. The ones that I marvel at was essentially the group who carried the message to me. They were the folks who responded to the notion of starting it around the world. And the vision was that you could catch onto this thing, grab the book, and make a start in your place. The people I marvel at are the people in Yuma, Arizona, who got word of it and said, let it be here. Took a stand. Lonely stand. Those are the people I marvel at. In North Carolina started when a drug addict physician, he was not an alcoholic at all, but he got that stuff we were sending out about the book, and he ordered the book. And when he read it, he knew it was not for him. But he knew some folks, some of whom I knew, that were bad drunks in that town, and pretty good guys. And he called half a dozen of them and said, how about coming over to my office, set a time, and met in his office, and he showed them what he'd found. That formed the first group in my state.